So Allan and myself met, I think 8 years ago now. I just moved to Invergordon and was transferring from South Queensferry lifeboat to Invergordon lifeboat, and that's where I met Allan. Allan was a crew member on the Invergordon boat, and that's where the story started.
We're partners. We met, what year? 2016, and it's just kind of blossomed from there.
We moved to Wick together in 2019, just before COVID.
I think we're a good team. Our relationship works because we are a team, and we kind of know each other's strengths and weaknesses.
So I'm Mhairi Ross.
And I'm Allan Lipp, and we are
Stormy and Steth. Welcome to the Long Row Home. And the Long Row Home is a circumnavigation of Great Britain by rowing boat. And a mixed pair's never completed a circumnavigation of Great Britain by rowing boat. So the aim of the challenge is to complete it, but whilst we're completing it is to raise as much money as possible for two charities that are very close to our hearts. They are the RNLI, the Royal National Lifeboat Institute, and SCA, which is Scotland's charity air ambulance.
I can say lots and lots just now because Mhairi's not standing right next to me, but Mhairi's a really stubborn person, so that in itself is going to help us here when we're rowing around the UK. But she is actually just an amazing person. If you think about the RNLI's core values, being selfless, dependable, trustworthy and courageous, she's absolutely every single one of those, without a doubt. The things that Mhairi will bring to this row are, she's incredibly stubborn. She's got the grit and determination to get on with things and see it through to the end.
So I think we both share this real sense of adventure, probably driven by me, and then he gets pulled along because it's usually my suggestion, and then he gets the fear of missing out, or FOMO as the young ones call it, and decides he wants to come along for the ride. He knows what he wants and when he wants it. He's very calm, but equally he can be quite hot-headed at times, which is not always his finer point in life. But most of the time he's quite chilled out, quite relaxed, but he's your typical redhead. He gets a ginger rage sometimes. But that's why I love him, because he's been there in some of my hardest times. He was there when a lot of people would have gone, I don't want anything to do with this, and stood by my side and supported me when I really needed that help and support. And that's why I love him to the moon and back.
And to have gone through what she has gone through and come back stronger, that's a special thing in itself. And I've got no doubt that we're going to get around the UK here and achieve success at the same time.
All ships. Rowing boat Boudicea, rowing boat Boudicea, rowing boat Boudicea. Outbound Wick Harbour. Listing out channel 14, over. So the Long Row Home, it's a circumnavigation of Great Britain, and it was a challenge that came to light for us after I got really quite poorly in hospital. Initially it was my mental health that really suffered, and I wasn't really in a very good place after I lost my mum. And then I got pneumonia, which made me realise that actually I did want to be alive and I had something to live for. And whilst I was in hospital recovering from the pneumonia, I got a message asking me did I want to row the Atlantic in 2024. And I've always been quite an adventurous person, so that was right up my street, and that was yes, I'm absolutely interested in this. And it became the focus for my mental and physical recovery, because I was at the stage where I could barely shower without being out of breath. And when I first started exercising 2 years ago, 5 minutes on my bike was too much. So the Atlantic challenge, it fell away for one reason or another, and it just wasn't going to materialise. And anyways, met some people who were rowing around Great Britain who actually convinced us that we didn't really want to go across the Atlantic. We wanted to go around Great Britain because it was a harder challenge in some respects and a very different challenge to going across the Atlantic. So at that point, Allan decided that he was potentially missing out, so he decided that he actually wanted to row too, and we decided what better way to do it than to share the journey together and go as a partnership, because between us we've got the skills and the determination to make it work.
It's very different to rowing across an ocean. We're always going to have the proximity of land in the back of our mind, and that's the number one risk or hazard, is the proximity to land. So we can't afford to just drift for a day. You know, if the weather's rough crossing an ocean and you need to just hunker down in a cab, you can throw a sea anchor over the side and just drift, and the sea anchor will keep the boat's bow head to the sea. We won't be able to do that because we would potentially just go aground or go ashore. So we're always going to have to be able to row or drop anchor, and so that's probably the number one difference to crossing an ocean. So an unsupported circumnavigation essentially means that from the minute we depart from Wick, we can't accept any help or take any supplies or go into a harbour and tie up alongside a marina or a harbour wall. We can drop anchor. We have to have all our provisions, all our food has to be aboard the boat when we set off, and our means of drinking water is our desalinator water maker. So as long as that is operable and we've got enough food left, we can do this. We know that we know what we're capable of, and we know we can do it.
It'll be a world record, and nobody's completed it before. People have tried, but they've not been successful in their attempt for one reason or another. There's been a variety of reasons. But one of the biggest challenges is that it is the British Isles. We've got some of the largest tides and not favourable weather conditions at times. So the absolute best that happens is we go out and we complete this circumnavigation unsupported, and we come home as record breakers, having raised over £30,000 for charity. The goal is 30,000, but in my heart of hearts, I'd love to double that. But so that would be the icing on the cake, would be to smash the fundraising targets and bring in a bit extra. Worst case scenario, we end up getting rescued by a big orange boat because it's gone horribly wrong at some point in time. Because it's the sea, it's the British Isles. We can undertake every precaution under the sun, but there could be an element that just catches us out. So worst case scenario, instead of a visit from an orange boat to say hello, we're on board the orange boat and coming back on shore.
Yeah, so when we depart from Wick, one of the first challenges that we'll have to overcome is finding the natural rhythm, the groove. And in an ideal world, we'll be doing a 2 hours on and 2 hours off rota, where your 2 hours on the oars is straightforward enough. You row and you just keep rowing until your 2 hours is up. Your 2 hours off, that'll involve eating, toileting, sleeping, anything else you want to do, including probably sending data, photos, video, our audio podcast clips, getting all that sorted out, because you can't really do it while you're rowing. So that's in an ideal world. Because of the risks and hazards going around the UK, we won't have the luxury of being able to stop and just put a sea anchor out for periods of time. So it might be that we both have to be rowing at the same time for potentially prolonged periods of time. So getting rest is going to be challenging. 2 hours off the oars is challenging enough, because out of that 2 hours off you might only get an hour of actual bedtime, and on a rocking, moving, sometimes noisy boat, that's not always easy to sleep. So getting rest is going to be really challenging. On the prolonged stretches where we're both on the oars, we'll just have to sort of dynamically get rest whenever we can, and that's going to be difficult to forecast really. The proximity of land and working with the weather and the tide as much as we can is something that you can't always predict and forecast. The tides, we know we can forecast them way in advance, but knowing where we are going to be at a certain period of time is going to be the big challenge there.
I'm inside the accommodation on the boat at the moment. It's very small, it's very compact, so when I sit at the very back of it, my shoulders pretty much fill the space widthwise. There is a little bit more space underneath some units, but there's not an awful lot of space for two people. So when we're lying flat, our feet can go out under the deck, which gives us enough space to lie flat, but otherwise you have to sit up and sit cross-legged, and there's just enough room between my head and the top of the cabin. If I was 6'5" tall, I'd be bashing my head off the top. This boat is she was built by Rannoch Adventure, and she was built in 2018, and she was built to the R15 spec. We love her as a wee boat. We've had her out in all different sorts of conditions, and she's handled really well. We also know that she's been across the Atlantic twice, and she's handled some really horrible conditions out there, so we've got every faith in the boat. And at one point in time she held the female pairs record for the fastest transatlantic crossing. I'm not sure if that still stands after this year's race. In the cabin we've got, most important things is we've got our chart, which is our map for looking where we're going and where's safe water, where's not safe water, and we can plot our journey on that chart as well, so we know which way we want to go. We've got our radio, which is our main means of communication when we're out, our VHF radio, because there will be times where we're out with a mobile signal. And then we've got our switches for our bank of other things that are on the vessel, that mostly things about keeping us safe. So we've got our autopilot, our AIS, our VHF, our chart plotter, our navigation lights, and we've got a bilge pump and a water pump as well. One of the first points of landfall after departing Wick is going to be Rattray Head, which is near Fraserburgh. It's a cornerstone really. By reaching that headland, that'll have been our first large-ish crossing. It's roughly 60-65 nautical miles from Wick, so anything up to sort of 2.5-3 days, depending on the weather. If we can do it quicker than that, that'll be brilliant. So that'll be an achievement once we reach there, and from there on in, I've got it in my mind that we just step off the similar distances. Each time we do a similar distance, that's an achievement, and just breaking it down into bite-sized chunks like that, or manageable parts of the journey, is hopefully going to make it quite straightforward. After Rattray Head, we just keep rowing, and there is the potential to just go from Rattray Head to Norfolk in a straight line and stay way off the coast, but it's more likely that we will come in and follow the coast, certainly in places anyway. Once we get round the southeast corner of England, it's hopefully a quick row along the south coast and reaching a fairly significant milestone of Land's End, and at that point we'll be approximately halfway distance wise on this journey, so that's around about 1,000 nautical miles of the 2,000 miles that we're going to be rowing. From Land's End we'll more than likely, if the weather's suitable, go across to the Irish side of the sea, Irish Sea, and the conditions are generally more favourable over there, and the tide is just a little bit better suited, so we'll hopefully go up the Irish coast if the conditions are right, and passing the beautiful west coast of Scotland then. Looking forward to that bit. There's always options. There's islands you can hide behind,
and Scotland's just a beautiful country as well. So getting round Cape Wrath, we'll almost be on the homeward stretch then. We'll, from rounding Cape Wrath, go along the north coast and save probably one of the most feared and challenging bits of water on the planet to last, the Pentland Firth. It's a phenomenal bit of water. It's in our lifeboat patch here. We're flanked up there with neighbouring stations of Long Hope and Thurso, and there's a reason for that overlap of lifeboat cover up there. It's a nasty bit of water. The tides up there are quite extreme. I think the fastest recorded tide was close on 20 knots. That was measured by the Admiralty. It's not uncommon to have tide in excess of 7-8 knots in places, and with that you can have significant standing waves, broken white water, and it literally flows like a river in places, so we need to get that bit right. But the whole coastline comes with its dangers too, so we have to get the whole lot right. It's not just a worst till last kind of thing.
So I love just the peace and tranquility that it brings. So, and every day on the oars is different. You get beautiful sunny days on flat calm seas where you can just get into a really nice rhythm of rowing, and then you've got other days where there's a sea coming behind you, big waves, a bit of swell, your oars are barely touching the water, so it just takes on a completely different dynamic and challenge. But the days where the sun's shining and it's really peaceful are just, it's a real calmness and tranquility it brings to what sometimes I can describe as quite a fuzzy, not messed up, but busy thinking, overthinking head. So it just gives me the time to really just focus on just peace and tranquility, and that's really, really important to me. And I've not always been the best at sitting down in peace and tranquility. I live life on the edge and it can be quite chaotic and things, so actually to find something at a period in my time where I was really needing it I'm really grateful for it, because it has allowed me that time just to sit and focus on what is important to me, and to put everything out of my mind as well, and just one stroke after the other, which is what life is really about as well. As we take one stroke, we lead to the next stroke, and those strokes take us on a longer journey every day. So we've earmarked the 1st of June for leaving. It is very weather dependent though, so we need to make sure there's a safe weather window to get from Wick over to Rattray Head, because we leave here, and once we leave the bay, we're straight out into very exposed waters, so we just need to make sure that it's going to be a safe crossing for us. Really looking forward to the challenges ahead, looking forward to learning things about myself and Allan that I haven't really thought about in the past, or never thought I would learn about myself. Mainly looking forward to raising lots of money for the charities. The charities are the RNLI and the Scottish Charity Air Ambulance. Both these charities are pretty close to our hearts. Allan and myself both volunteer for the RNLI, so we see very much firsthand the good and life-saving that it does, and there's no better feeling than helping somebody in that real moment of need between life and death. And you go home at the end of the day and you say, I saved a life today. It's quite an honour to be able to know that you've helped somebody in that way. And the same goes for the Scottish Charity Air Ambulance. It's another charity. We live in the Highlands, remote area of the Highlands. We come from the islands, and again I've seen firsthand the lifeline that service offers to the communities. And also with being a paramedic, there's nothing, it's great knowing that they're coming to help the patient, but it's also, even from a very selfish point of view, it's great knowing they're coming to help us as the clinicians, that helicopter's bringing another level of support and help and another level of life-saving opportunity So that's why they're two very important charities to not just us, but to many, many people who live in the Highlands and Islands, between the remoteness, the farming communities and the sea, the maritime communities as well, the fishermen. Everyone knows a story about a fisherman in these areas, so it seemed a no-brainer to go out and do it for the charities that mean a lot to us and we've been involved in and hopefully will be involved in for a long time to come.
So the reason we're doing the podcast, it's part of our journey. We're doing this because it's an almighty challenge for both of us, and by doing this podcast, we're just hoping it's a tool that people can hear our story, but it'll also promote the charitable side of what we're doing and why we're doing it. It's going to be quite interesting. Without a doubt, there'll be some dark times that we'll be documenting, both those and the lighter times too. So it's an almighty challenge, as I said, but having people listen from anywhere on the planet, basically, I think that's quite an interesting prospect in itself, because you'll literally be on our journey with us by listening.
Getting back to Wick after circumnavigating the UK, that's going to be just a monumental achievement. I don't know if there's any other way I can describe it, because just setting off in itself is a challenge in itself. Getting across the start line for any expedition is one of the biggest challenges that anybody ever faces. So we're almost there. We're just a few weeks away from it, and even in that time there's some significant challenges to overcome. A personal one for me right now, my mum's not very well. She's in hospital, and that's probably the biggest stress factor at the moment, is potentially setting off and things aren't quite right there. So that's a challenge that we're prepared to overcome and get going with this, and getting back to Wick hopefully in about 60 days time from setting off. I think that's just something that is a real positive thing to look forward to. There will be some dark times along the way, but focusing on getting around will get us there, if that makes sense. I don't know. I think rowing back in through the harbour entrance is going to be quite special in so many ways. You can follow our journey by going to our website, which is thelongrowhome.co.uk. On there, there's a link to just give in if you want to donate. You'll be able to follow our journey on there. So we'll have our yellow brick tracker feed on the website there. So every 6 hours or so, you'll see where we are on the map. We've also got AIS on the boat. So provided we're within VHF coverage of an AIS station, you'll see us on a marine traffic or any other site like that works. There'll be regular updates, but one of the big things we are doing is what we're doing right at this very second in time. We're recording this, we're making a podcast, and that's quite an exciting little project in itself. So you'll be able to follow our journey by going to wherever you get your podcasts. Just stay tuned, and you'll hopefully hear more if you're not bored of listening to our voices already.